Is everybody ready? Because I don't know if I am. Welcome in, everybody. Let's talk about everything that I read, but primarily the things I DNF'd in July. I think that this is going to be kind of a rough video because I know I said last month that that was the worst reading month I'd ever had. July got even worse. I think I only finished 5 books, so most of the books that I'm going to be talking to you about are in fact DNFs. I think at this point my plan is, we'll see if how I feel after I start editing, is to just give you everything. All the books that I tried, even for 5%. I think anyone involved in the book's production belong in federal prison. We'll be talking about those. We'll be talking about a brand new favorite. And there will be some books that I finished and liked, or books that I do think just kind of caught some strays. I'm gonna get a little bit in depth with some of the books, even if I didn't get very far, because some of them I actually learned quite a bit about what I do and don't like in certain writing. But I want to be clear before I start getting into some of this. I don't think these little like nitpicks or things that really threw me out of the book are necessarily bad writing. I don't think these authors are bad. I don't think that if you aren't bothered by these things that you somehow have bad taste. I think a lot of these things, there's like a sliding scale for like whether you like it or tolerate it or hate it. And I just happen to be on the hate it side of things. If you don't pick up on these things, if these things don't bother you, this is not me in some way saying that I have better taste or that you have bad taste or anything like that. I just want to be so clear. I'm gonna nitpick some of these books, but it's because it really did teach me about some of the things that really bother me in books so that I can pick up on them earlier. And then hopefully for some of you, if these are things that have been bothering you, but you've struggled to kind of put it into words, maybe this will be helpful. Anyways, all this to say, you're gonna see primarily DNFs. Without further ado, let's just jump into all of the books. All right, we started off strong with the DNF. So the first book that I attempted to read was Speechless by Elle Parker. So this is a standalone. We have a heroine that was in captivity, dark romance. So basically the heroine was taken from her old life, stripped of her humanity, doesn't even speak anymore. She's able to escape and collapses at the feet of a group of men who maybe also don't have the best of intents, but that's how she ends up running into the hero, Connor O'Malley. And he ends up helping her and figuring out who she is and where she came from and getting her voice back and such as. So, okay, this one genuinely, I think people involved deserve prison time. The premise had me. Like the first couple of scenes were gritty and I was really intrigued. And then it went downhill so goddamn fast. It was kind of incredible. The way the hero ends up helping her is just like so wildly not appropriate. She like stumbles into what I assume is like a bar or a billiards hall. She's like in rags, dirty, malnourished, not speaking. Like she gets in there and a guy is immediately like, "Hey, honey," and is like creeping up on her. And the hero basically just punches everyone's lights out in this entire bar, sure Jan. And then he's so wildly inappropriate with her with his attempts to help her. These guys are still laying on the ground over here and he has her like stripping out of her clothes in front of him and his brother and is like, "Here, put this on." I'm like, what universe is this appropriate? And he starts calling her baby and good girl within, I'm not joking, 5 seconds of meeting her. Can you just fuck not for 4 seconds? This woman just went through something horrible and you're already laying groundwork for sexy talk. Like I just am so icked out by this. So anyways, this one was a DNF at like 5% because truly what the fuck. Next up, not a DNF, I finally finished Daggermouth by H.M. Wolfe. So this is the first book in the Heart duology. It's enemies to lovers, forced marriage, dystopian dark romance. I think that pretty much covers things. So basically, in this world, there is kind of like a surveillance state and everyone's categorized in sort of a caste system. So the outer rings are the boundary and the further in you get, the more power, money, wealth, leisure time you have. And obviously, like if you're further out, it's a lot of poverty. People are not quite as well off. So Grayson Cyril is the son of the president here, and he does all daddy's dirty work, including carrying out very brutal death sentences for even the most minor of crimes, which is how he becomes the target of our heroine, who is a mercenary called a Daggermouth. So she ends up taking the contract, goes to assassinate him. Her bullet misses. She ends up caught, and now they got to figure out how to cover this whole thing up. And the way that they're going to do it is by forcing them to get married, so that they can bring even a Daggermouth to heal. I just want to preface everything I'm about to say with, I know that this author catches like a lot of flack. So I want to be clear that I have some critiques, but I get why people do like this. It's got really great action scenes. I can see why people are pulled in by some of the messaging. I just think for me, this fell a little bit flat, and there are things that I think could have made it even better, because the premise and the beginning portion really had me hooked. But I feel like I'm just left after reading this with so many questions, because I feel like this book was too zoomed in on our main characters. So much time was spent in an apartment and just drinking and just kind of being hate fucky violent with each other that I feel like I'm missing a lot. I don't feel like I understand the world. I don't feel like I understand the politics. I would have loved to understand what else is around this. Is this a city? Is this a state? How did he come to power? What are the types of messaging and rhetoric that he has? What do his followers believe? Why does he have followers? You know, I wanted to more deeply understand this world, because it sort of is like set dressing, it's backdrop, and it doesn't really effectively get explored other than with the interpersonal dynamics of the characters. Although it's very heavy-handed with its like messaging about the treatment of women and people of lower SES and needing to collaborate to take down the enemy, those things were not very subtle. I just felt like it loses its strength in its messaging when we are not really focused on the world around us very much. We're very much focused in on the romance. The romance really does seem to be the plot, because we don't spend very much time planning or scheming or interacting with the resistance in a meaningful way that shows what the grander plan is. And that's why I feel like at the end, their like end grandstand that they take caught me off guard, because I felt like that was disconnected from what I thought it was gonna be. My understanding this entire time was like, we have to destroy the rings. This is how he's trying to control us. Like the lower ranks must rise up. Not that women need to stand up. Don't get me wrong. I want them to do that as well. But I felt like there was a little bit of a flip-flop right at the end. And I was kind of like, wait, so that's what the resistance is about? And then I think when it came to the romance, I didn't really feel any chemistry with this couple. I think when they were enemies, there was some sizzle there, but I felt like we got to the relationship portion in a very unearned way. He kind of just sort of like my wifed his way into her kind of good graces. Honestly, half the time they were like slugging vodka and then like busting the bottle so that they could slice each other's throats and then going to Pound Town. I was just kind of like, no, for sure. That's exactly what I thought would happen here. I just didn't feel like a true sense of a build, or really that they were becoming lovers beyond just fucking. I'm very torn with this one, because I think there's just so many things that had they been better developed, this book could have crushed it for me. But unfortunately, I think because there are so many issues, I'm gonna give this one a rating of 3 stars. Next up, I read Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. So this is a standalone. It's childhood friends to lovers, kind of. It's a little bit slice of life, lit fic. In this, we're following 2 primary different couples. So we have Alice, who's a novelist. She's kind of taking a break in the countryside, and that's where she ends up meeting Felix, who is a warehouse worker, and they sort of develop some sort of relationship, and she kind of on a whim asks him to go to Rome with her. Now, her best friend lives in Dublin, and she is in the process of getting over a breakup and kind of slips back into a relationship situationship that she's had with a guy she's known since her childhood. And it just kind of follows them through parts of their early career, figuring out who they are amidst all of this. I decided to grab this because I've actually had it on my shelf for a hot minute. I'm not a super big lit fic fan, so I haven't picked it up because of that, but I happened to be in the mood, wanted to meditate a little bit on life in the world and just have something that I also knew had kind of a positive spin to things, because I had heard that this one did have kind of like more of a happy ending. And I don't know, it was just kind of fun following people as they figure out a bit of their life. They're kind of young professionals. Do they want to get married? Do they like what they do for work? Do they need to do something different? Do they even like this person that they're kind of hooking up with, that they've fallen into a situationship with? Do they like like him as a life partner, while also kind of contemplating their existence in the world. The emails honestly were my favorite because they were just stream of consciousness of like, here's a rabbit hole that I went down, and this is something that I've been kind of like contemplating on. Anyways, hope you're well. I just met this guy, da 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 da. Like what the inside of my brain is like half the time. I think the only thing that I really was kind of like about was the fact that writing is a little tedious at times because it just zeroes in on every single fucking action that a character takes. They flip a little lock on the front door, they walk into the kitchen, they fill the kettle, place it on the cradle, they push the button for 175 degrees. Once the tea kettle whistles, they pour it into their teacup. Every single action. That's the only reason that this kind of got bumped down to a 4-star for me. But honestly, I do think this is a case of right book, right time. I think had I gotten this another time, it probably would have been a 3. So just keep that in mind. So next up, we have the winner for this entire month. If you watched my mid-year book freakout tag, you know what's coming. It's Fearless by Lauren Gilley. This is the first book in the Dartmoor series. This has got Forbidden Love, Second Chance, it's a motorcycle club, it's got found family, it's got an age gap. So this one is about Ava. She left for college with a broken heart, but a deeply ingrained love for her biker family. But she's graduated now, she's back in Knoxville, and she's looking to go to grad school, just as her father is taking on the burden of becoming president of the MC, which means Mercy is back in town. Now, this is the biker that broke her heart a number of years ago. He had initially come from Louisiana to be part of this MC and also escaped some of his past. He becomes the extractor and the bodyguard for the Lean Dogs, and that means when the Lean Dogs, back in the day, went to war with another biker gang, he was assigned to protect Ava and her mother. That's how he basically became part of the family, became very close, a constant companion to Ava. Now, as Ava matured, things changed and they end up crossing the line, but now she's back, she's older, and an old nemesis has resurfaced, putting the entire club in danger. This book is so heavy, but I'm gonna continue to hold it because, oh my gosh, this is so good. This is truly one of the best books I have read in such a long time. The start is slow. There's a lot to get into with the backstory of Ava and Mercy. There's a lot of side characters that you need to learn about. You have a whole family dynamic that you got to get figured out. In addition to the club, there's politics within the town. There is quite a bit to set up, but give it 20%. And I promise you, it will take you on such a ride. I think what really kept me reading during some of those slow portions was that the writing was incredibly rich, not in a purple way, not in a flowery way. It just was able to pack in so much and give you a distinct sense of where you are, who a person is, and makes you feel very present with the characters. And I think that's part of what made me fall in love with these characters as well, is because we took a lot of time to develop who they are and who are the people around them and how has that informed who they are. Like truly, although there is definitely plot to this, I read this for the characters. They have so much nuance, and I know that I'm not going to do them justice in the way that I describe them, but I'm gonna do my best. So Ava, she's so tough. She's trying to take a different path. Everyone wants better for her than this MC, but she's so comfortable being with the MC. She's a tough girl. She knows how to shoot. She knows how to ride a bike. She struggles with trying to stretch herself between these two worlds, pursue her education, but also wanting to be in on what's going on with the MC. She's still more comfortable around these rough and tumble bikers than she is a guy from the country club. And I loved how much, like, Mercy, as much as he is through and through a rough and tumble biker, he does have this gentleness to him. He always, from the beginning, treats Ava like an adult, like she can understand things. He does have a lot of respect for her, and yet she can bring out this kind of boyish shyness or playfulness out of him that others really just don't get to see. But again, through and through, he is this tough biker that kind of relishes the position that he's in. He likes being known for being dangerous and violent. He likes that people are scared of him. And he's not someone that's easily baited or provoked. I did like too with the age gap that this was treated seriously. I find in a lot of age gap romances where they usually lose me, the characters don't really spend any time debating what this means for them or their social standing. It's just treated as something titillating, and that's not what happened here. They really had to suffer social consequences. They had to figure out how to navigate that and overcome it and get people to take them seriously. I am so excited to get further into this series. There are so many characters that was so excited to get their perspective. Normally I'm a person that I'm like, I just want hero and heroine, and then I don't want anything else from nobody else. And I loved in this her mom and her dad. I loved getting their perspectives. I wanted to know how they saw things. I wanted to see what her brother was up to. I didn't mind having their perspectives in there because I found them just as interesting and just as rich, and it makes me so excited that they're getting books later. Other standout for me on this, the pacing. The pacing is really incredible because it knows when to lay on the gas and when to let up and let you breathe, and when the relationships kind of need some time to repair, and then we can ratchet things up. And I think that pacing, that sense of rhythm that the book had made it more compelling, and it allowed it to not feel overdramatic or melodramatic because everything felt so purposeful and a lot more realistic. When I got done with this book, I just felt like I personally knew all of these people, that these were friends. Like, the idea that other people have read this book feels like someone read my diary. Like, that's how personal this book feels. Although I have to say, it's been really fun talking with other people who love this book as well. There's like a secret cult, you guys. You didn't know about it. I'll be the first to tell you. And it's been so fun to discover it because these ladies ride hard. And it's been so fun meeting some new people through our shared love of this book. So obviously this is a rating of 5 stars. I don't even know if I did it justice. Honestly, it's just incredible. It's just incredible. Next up, we have one that makes me very sad, and it's Butterfly Swords by Jeannie Lin. This is the first in the Tang Dynasty series. We've got a runaway bride, a warrior hero, kind of road trip, forbidden attraction. Basically, this is set in Tang Dynasty China, and the heroine, Ai Li, finds out that she's been betrayed right before her wedding, so she ends up fleeing with pretty much nothing except for her butterfly swords. She's miles from home, and she ends up enlisting the help of a pretty reluctant foreigner who proves his skill with the sword. That's our hero Ryam. He is battle scarred. He's a bit bitter. Some shit gone down with him recently, which has led to his current circumstances wandering the roads. But when Ai Li asks for his help, he doesn't feel he quite deserves it. But he sees how innocent and trusting she is and worries after her, and it makes him desperate to protect her. He just has to be careful not to seduce her in the process. So this one was another DNF, and I didn't want to DNF it because if you saw one of my other recent wrap-ups, I read The Lotus Palace a month or two ago, and it was incredible. I loved it. That's by the same author. But this one, I don't know if it was the slump, I don't know if it was this couple or the plot, but I just was so disinterested. And at 65%, I had to call it because I was like, I think this is killing my desire to read. I think part of where this went wrong was that the connection between the hero and heroine was a bit instant. Now, The Lotus Palace also has that, but I gave it more of a pass in that book because there's history between the two characters versus these two were strangers, felt a bit flat to me. It felt a bit off. And I think that resulted in me not buying the chemistry and not really buying the tension. I also just was not as interested in this plot. Like, normally I really like political machinations and having to play the political game, and I love that kind of stuff. But for me, this was just not hitting for some reason. And honestly, I don't even know why I didn't really love this book. Like, I don't think that there was anything horrifically wrong with it. So I don't know if this one is because of my mood or it just would have been kind of a mid-book regardless. But regardless, this one I'm not gonna rate because I DNF'd it at 65%. Next up, I attempted to read Dissonance by Adeline Humphries. This is the first in the Falling Star trilogy. We got a rock star romance, second chance, diction, dark romance. A lot of people compare this to Edge of Darkness trilogy, and I can definitely see why, so we'll get into it. So basically, the world knows Jude Graves as this untouchable rock star, but Emma Easton knew him before the fame, before he became the dark caricature that he is now, and before that night that shattered both of their worlds and resulted in him disappearing. Now it's 7 years later, after a very public overdose, they realize that they need to do a little bit of PR. So they send him back to his hometown to recover, back to where his long-lost love, Emma, is. So, like I said, I definitely can see the comparisons to The Edge of Darkness in the setup. Drug use, people forcing him to do things he doesn't want to, longing for his girl, organized crime. So there's a lot of things that I think are very similar. I think tonally, though, this does feel different. Although it's still dark, there's more of this sadness, I would say, to this one. Versus like Cade feels a lot more angry and confident and just emboldened. This hero feels a lot more quieter, depressed, sad, kind of pulled into himself. So there is a pretty big difference, I would say, in the type of darkness that this is. But I think where this kind of lost me is that I just didn't feel like the heroine's perspective had as much grit and as much oomph as the hero's perspective did. He was really down bad, but then we got to her and it felt kind of corny. Like, at one point, she is doing art therapy and she literally says to one of the people that's in her course, storms are allowed to be dark, when he asks if the painting is too dark. It's stuff like that where I was kind of like, that just doesn't feel like a real therapeutic response. It was losing some of the earnestness that I feel like the hero's perspective had. I also found the delineation of flashbacks corny. It literally says a memory. That really pulled me out of the story because it didn't feel well integrated. And I also don't like flashbacks in general, so I was kind of like already turned off by that. But I was willing to push past it just because I did see so much of what was happening with the hero's perspective. But it was like the further I got in, the flatter I felt like the characters were getting. Their personality seemed to be centered primarily on their trauma. And then it felt like they were doing a lot of things more because it was sentimental or aesthetic sounding and not because it was true emotional depth. And I think right now I'm just looking for juicy, complex characters, and this just wasn't giving that for me. So I don't know if I'll come back to this one. I'm kind of split on it. I think it kind of got the short end of the stick coming after Fearless, which was so incredible. But I also feel like some of my complaints are kind of valid and would bother me regardless. So I'm a little bit split on whether I'll come back to this one, but no rating for this one. I DNF'd it at 20%. Then we have Saving Askara by J.M. Link. This is the first in a trilogy. Aliens, it's kind of a space opera. Our heroine Victoria is an emergency medicine specialist and she is on the ship the Phoenix. We are at a point in time where people know about aliens know about us, and she's dreamed of interacting with some of these intelligent extraterrestrials. Now, Idris and his people just happen to be such extraterrestrials, and they have escaped captivity. But their flight for freedom ends up landing them in an uncharted system very close to some humans, which forces them to make contact with these very curious people, which is how he ends up meeting Victoria. And then there's some negotiations between the two races. So this I felt like had a really strong opening. It kind of throws you in, but I think I didn't find the world building convincing for me personally. I have mutuals that really love this book, but there was a few things that threw me out and I just like couldn't recover from them. The biggest one straight up that I couldn't overlook is this kind of almost like lack of attention to detail. The heroine is observing the aliens talk to one another and she says they communicate through sound rather than language. I'm gonna repeat that. They communicated through sound, not language. What do you think speaking is, Jan? Some might call it sound. That really threw me off. And then there was like certain goofy things that would kind of happen, like where we have a really technologically advanced alien species, and instead of testing things through the technology that they have, they would like taste test a product that they thought could be potentially consumed by them. And I'm like, why would you do that? Because if it's not consumable, aren't you gonna end up ill? Why do you have all this technology and then not use it? This feels a bit silly. So there was like goofy little things like that. If I'm noticing it this early on, it's gonna become more frustrating later. So although I think this one has a lot of potential, the world building just like didn't pull me in. So DNF to this one at 15%, so I'm not gonna give it a rating. Next up, we have Renegade, and this is by Madilyn DeRose. Madilyn DeRose. Madilyn DeRose? Sure. Okay, so this is a standalone. We've got a hero that's a cult leader, a heroine that's a journalist, got a small town. Is it a forbidden romance, I guess, in this? It's a dark romance, at least. But anyways, Keller is our hero, and he was raised to fulfill a divine mission, one that only he can accomplish. Something that his great-grandfather set in motion with this community 90 years ago. But the weight of it is really stifling for him. He doesn't know how he's going to fill his father's shoes. And when we meet him, he's trying to find a new way to connect with the community and the outside world. And that's how he comes in contact with Arlie, who's back in Montana. She's returned to support her ailing mother and ends up volunteering herself to dig into this cult that's been rumored to be outside of their small town. And then apparently it leads to them probably falling into bed together or something along those lines. Oh my God. So this had promise, but I hated both of these characters. Both of them are quite bratty, immature, petulant, and I genuinely don't think that the author intended for them to come off this way, but the heroine was extremely stubborn and thought she is way better than everyone around her. And it became really frustrating because I don't think that it was building into a character arc where she like learns about herself and learns not to judge people. The sense that I was getting was that this is like the heroine fully cooked. I was also confused by the hero because the blurb says he's like really weighted by the pressure of taking over leadership after his father. But he seems to really begrudge the role and kind of avoid it. So I found that a bit strange. Maybe that came later. I don't really know. But he also didn't really act like a cult leader or act like someone that was in charge really. Again, he felt kind of petulant and childish. So I found his characterization kind of strange. And then like the cult really wasn't landing for me. We weren't seeing a lot of the cult's day-to-day life, and the bits that I was seeing felt kind of contradictory and done more because they were salacious and they would grab people's attention and not because this cult really made sense. And look, maybe there's something revealed down the line that it like all of these things that I think are potential holes in some of the development get explained, but those kind of like perceived inconsistencies were just adding to my frustration, and then I don't really care about the characters. So I just felt like there was nothing for me in this book, which I think is unfortunate because I think there's a lot of promise to this type of setup. So I DNF'd to this one again at 20%, so I'm not giving it a rating. Then I moved on to World Departed by Sarah Lyons Fleming. That's a mouthful. It's the first in the Cascadia series, and it's like a zombie apocalypse. This is supposed to have like a lot of different POVs, kind of an ensemble cast. So basically this one is following 3 different people, I think, as a zombie virus ends up hitting the West Coast. It's them kind of responding to and adapting to this new reality. So like Rose was in the middle of maybe getting divorced. There's a single father named Tom Jensen who's like very strict and inflexible, but obviously in a zombie apocalypse, it's gonna be hard to adhere to your plans. And then we have Craig Matthews who needs to figure out how to get himself to leave the apartment. I almost didn't include this one because I didn't even make it that far into this book. And so I think for some people this could really work and be really interesting. It does have a certain polish to it that I noticed, but there was something going on with the writing in here that was like a total light bulb moment for me that kept throwing me out. And it was like these explainer sentences that would break up scenes and try and explain something. So it would like put a narrator in between you and the scene randomly. It felt like, you know, like when your partner pauses the movie to like turn and explain something to you instead of just like letting you experience it. Like that's what it felt like, rather than feeling like it was information that was integrated into the scene itself and just helped give me a little bit more context. Because a lot of the information that was being given, I didn't care about in the immediate scene. So it would be like, oh, there's this guy friend and I called him and I left a voice. I don't give a shit about your friend. I want to know what's going on with you and your kids because you're watching a video about a potential zombie. Are you guys worried? Are you not? Do you think it's fake? Like what's going on with you guys? Especially because I felt like some of the information that was being dropped in this banner could have been so easily integrated into the conversations with her kids. All that to say, I did not make it this far in. Granted, it's a long book, but I DNF'd it at 5%. But I'm really grateful to this book because it really did teach me quite a bit about a quirk with writing that I just don't have a high tolerance for. So next up, I have another DNF. I know. Are you guys sick of it yet? It's Dark Horse by Michelle Diener. Diener. I'm gonna move on. Part of the Class 5 series. This is book 1. I think these are interconnected, but don't quote me. So this is a sci-fi romance. It's got a bit of first contact. So we have Rose Mackenzie. She is far from Earth and has absolutely no way back. But she made a powerful ally in a fellow prisoner by the name of Sazo, who is an artificial intelligence. He ends up saving her from captivity and torture, but he also ends up putting her in the middle of an existing conflict, and it has her loyalties divided. Her escape ends up drawing the attention of Captain Dav and his crew, who end up stumbling across the ship that contained her. It's a legendary Class 5 battleship, and when he approaches the ship, they realize almost everyone on board is dead. But there's one strange being that they've never seen before who calls herself Rose. As they investigate what happened to this ship, how did all of these people die, they're realizing more and more that her story is not adding up. So, thoughts on this? There's animal death right away, so I'm gonna throw that out there. Felt completely unnecessary. The beginning also just kind of had my brain in knots. I feel like I was really struggling to figure out what was going on, and maybe if I had read the blurb ahead of time, that would have helped me. Didn't even have that background knowledge when I was going into it. This one also had some of those explainer sentences that I was talking about in the prior book that were kind of jarring me out, but this felt enough like a Star Trek episode that I was willing to push through. Honestly, what made me DNF this is okay, my camera just decided to die in the middle of when I was explaining that. So what made me DNF this book was the fact that AI character was just immediately displaying some very evil behavior. I think just with all the shitty AI stuff that's going on right now, I'm just so exhausted by all of it, and I don't want any part of it, and I don't want to be around it, and I don't want it in my books right now. So yeah, that's why I was just kind of like, I'm just not really interested in pushing through. And I also just didn't really care about the characters that much. They had been introduced and I was like, I mean, okay, like I feel kind of bad for the heroine because she had been abducted, but like outside of that, I wasn't really that pulled in. I didn't end up rating this one and I DNF'd it at 15%. So next up we have When She Unravels by Gabrielle Sands. This is the first book in a mafia series. It's a mafia romance. It's a possessive hero, kind of forced proximity. So the premise for this one is that the heroine was raised to be the perfect mafia wife. She is a bargaining chip in this world, and she is arranged to marry this guy who turns out to be an absolute nightmare. When her husband takes things a step too far, she ends up giving him the old pew pew in the noggin and running away and trying to start a new life, which is how she ends up in Ibiza. And the moment she gets there, she is robbed and she is left with nothing but the clothes on her back. In her desperation, she ends up trying to get a job at a club owned by Damiano DeRose, who rules this island. All she wants is a job, but he's gonna give her a whole lot more than that. So this one, the beginning, when she was escaping, my eyeballs were glued to the pages. It was dramatic, it was intense, it was emotional. I was scared of the heroine. I wanted to know what was happening next. I did feel like things started to get a little bit more predictable, a bit more overdramatic as we started to get further into the book. So it's like the plot itself, I think, is pretty unique and the pacing of it is different, but I don't feel like the scenes or actions of the characters are that unexpected. Does that kind of make sense? So it's like kind of tropey feeling in that way. This did have some really fun banter between the hero and heroine. Kind of started out aggressive and barbed and then becomes more fun and playful. The heroine, I found her a little bit inconsistent. It was like she would kind of forget about parts of herself and then it would kind of like come back up out of convenience. Like this girl was kind of walking into a scenario where she knew she would have to be doing sexy things, yet it takes her until she's like 4 seconds away from actually just straight up being penetrated that she's like, not a lot of men have Spider-Man my clam, so I'm actually kind of nervous about this. You weren't nervous before? Like walking up to this scenario. You only thought about it like right before it was about to happen? Really? So there was stuff like that that I kind of, it kind of prevented me from fully sinking in and fully like feeling attached to the heroine. I think if that had been more consistent throughout, maybe I would have liked her more. But like overall, I will say I was generally enjoying this book for what it was, just kind of like a fun mafia romp. I just genuinely forgot that I was reading it. So I ended up DNFing this one around 65%. So I'm not giving it a rating. And then one that genuinely I think everyone involved deserves to be waterboarded. Oh my God. The Darkness That Kept Us by Nicci Harris. So this is part of the Kids of the District world. I don't even know what book number it is. It's like trauma bond, childhood connections. They're in college, so I guess it's new adults. I don't know. I don't give a fuck. The premise for this basically is that Connor, the hero, has been looking for someone that was part of his past that used to soothe him when he was in captivity, it sounds like. He's kind of always hoped he'd find her, and then he goes to college and he sees Blesk. Yeah, that's the name that we chose for her. She's at his college, and then they're just like, wow, we should be together. I don't fuck. Guys, this book is so bad. Okay, first off, hate the name Blesk. Obviously, I had to look that up because I was like, it's so clearly not a name. What is this? It's Czech for lightning. You're welcome. I don't know why that was chosen. I don't give a shit. Other things in my notes. I am so sick of heroines that are bookish and just love to read. At this point, it's starting to feel like fan service. I just feel like the author's like turning to me and being like, she's just like you. She's like awkward and nerdy. Don't you like her? Stop it.
Stop it. Get some help.
Give them other hobbies. Anyways. Also, the thing that pissed me off the most. This heroine had the weirdest intrusive thoughts. She arrives on campus before she does anything. She doesn't go to her dorm. She doesn't go to orientation. She immediately goes to the library just to sit around. Her brother ends up finding her there. She then is like, I guess I should go to orientation, out loud to her brother. And then internally she's like, whoa, that's crazy. I would never willingly leave a library. Who the fuck is like that? Really corny. Then she starts talking about how her brother's attractive, and I was like, what in the Alabama family wreath is this? Oh my God, like this was so insufferable within a couple of pages. I genuinely felt like I was getting dumber reading this book, so I DNF'd it at 4%, and I'm still not over it, and everyone deserves prison time who was involved with this book. I can't believe this is the same author that wrote Born for Silk, which I just think is incredible. Like, authors contain multitudes. All right, so my husband is about to be home in about 5 seconds, so I'm gonna go help him with the groceries, and I will come back to you probably in a couple days with the last book that I read, which is actually a winner, so stay tuned. Hi friends. So sorry for the jump scare. I was editing this video and realized I never made an outro, and I never told you guys about the last book that I read for this month. So let's do that now. I'm looking a little grimy because I'm gonna go work out in like 4 seconds. So if you've made it to this part of the video, you really don't care what I look like. So the final book that I read was The Boy on the Bridge by Sam Mariano. It's a standalone. It's kind of her typical formula: high school, bully romance, dark romance, obsessive hero. So the premise for this one, the heroine is not very popular at school. She's only really got one friend. She ends up walking home one day and sees the most popular guy in school on the bridge on her path home. In that moment, she's not seeing the most popular boy in school. She's just seeing someone who is very clearly in distress and needs help. And so she goes into caretaker mode and makes sure that he is okay. And now she's kind of got this shared secret with him, and it ends up forging this bond. And he becomes pretty obsessive. But that obsession turns dark when he feels that she's betrayed his trust. Whether it's 1 year from now or 5 years from now, he is going to get his revenge. So overall, this was so nice to just sink into a Sam Mariano book, because even though this is not my favorite Sam Mariano, there was just so many of the familiar dynamics that I really love and enjoy, and her ability to just get inside the heads of her characters was like slipping into a warm bath. It was so pleasant. So the setup for this, I think, feels kind of typical Sam Mariano. You've got the heroine's got a single mom, she's poor. The hero is a rich boy, he's the most popular boy, he's obsessive and dark arc. So there's a lot of the same dynamics that you see in a lot of her books, but I think it was remixed in a slightly fresh way. I feel like the characters, although they share a lot of similarities to her other heroes and heroines, do stand in their own right. So the heroine, for example, she's, you know, kind of that awkward, bookish, not very popular, but I think what made her unique is because they had that emotional bond early on, she becomes pretty infatuated with him. And because she has this role as like a caretaker, she really takes a lot from him, not because she has to do a lot of mental gymnastics, but because to her, this is not the real guy that she knows or is being cruel. She knows truly who he is. And so I think that makes her kind of unique. I will say though, because they're pretty young when they first meet, she is like a little bit doe-eyed and awkward in a way that I got some bad secondhand embarrassment. I think is realistic for the age, but at the same time, I was like on my knees begging, like, please make a different choice. Like, you're just being so stupid right now. I need you to please not. And I think too, she was really intent on holding him to a standard. She was willing to take quite a bit from him, but she was really clear about what her boundaries were. And when those were crossed, she was like, okay, so then we're done. I don't even care if this makes us both miserable. The hero is, again, similar, but has some like unique differences to him. So he's like very cruel, manipulative. He's the most popular guy. He can kind of get anyone and everyone to bend to his will. He's got a lot of money at his disposal as well. But there is a certain desperation to him. He wants to be able to wield his power over people, and he wants to still be able to kind of do that with the heroine, thinking that she'll always kind of be there when she kind of pushes back and is like, hey, what you did is actually shitty and you shouldn't have done that. He does have this desperation of like, I need to get her back. I need to get her back. And it's like, he just wants power and control, it feels like, over everyone, but especially her. I do feel like he has more or some, any amount, empathy and sympathy though. There are a couple of moments where he does go soft, which I think is very different from her other heroes. So he does have a lighter feel to him, I think, because of that. Now, oh, I can't say anything because it's spoilers. Something out of context from my notes. Valerie feels like she'd be a TikTok influencer and friends with Mackenzie Shrilla. Kind of ate with that one. No notes. Now, all that said, there were a few things that prevented this from being a full 5 stars. I think where this lost me just a touch, there was a few too many info drops, and it was information that I don't really feel like was necessary or really enriched the scene. It just kind of interrupted things. And so I think that that kind of added to the bulk of this book, because this is like 600 or 700 pages. It's really long. I also feel like there were some scenes that just got dragged out, and that was really frustrating because it's like, it's not like I wasn't enjoying the scenes. They just didn't need to go on for as long as they did, especially towards the end. It definitely felt like it was just sort of a, and then, and then, and then, and then, and then. I really think that this could have been like a solid 400 page book, and it would have been even better. Also, I need to get this off my chest. About half of this book, I was screaming, girl, go take plan B. 2 other random things for Sam Mariano fans. 1, there is a little bit of crossover with untouchable characters. It's subtle, it's fun, I enjoyed it. Number 2, Sam Mariano continues her tradition of having super interesting side characters that I borderline like more than the hero by the end. This is no exception. Where's the book for Sherlock? That's all I gotta say for that. Oh, also, if you don't like other woman drama, don't pick up this book, or honestly, any book from Sam Mariano. So just don't do that. Anyways, this, I give a rating of 4 stars. All right, so thank you so much for sitting through this entire video. I would now love to hear from you what you read this month, what you loved, what you hated, what you DNF'd, because are all of us slumping? Because it sure feels like it right now. I feel like there's a lot of solidarity in the comments right now of everyone being just a little bit miserable with reading. So hopefully you guys did find a winner this month. And with all of that, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to interact with the video in some way, hype it up, like it. It's free for you. It's entirely painless. It really helps me out. I really appreciate it. It also lets me know what you guys like. I would also really appreciate it if you would subscribe. I would love to have you back for more videos, whether it's your first one or you've been a repeat watcher and you just haven't done so yet. So I really do hope I see you on my next video. Bye-bye.